Welcome to the Outside the Business Boxes podcast, where we're talking about how to ignite your business today for the future using systems for everything you do in your business to make your life, your employees' lives, and your customers' lives easier for you to ultimately enjoy your business and, of course, make more money. I'm your host, Chad Murray. Thank you again for coming to Outside the Business Box podcast. I am Chad Murray, your host, and thank you for listening to me again and going on a journey of a service business. Most of you are chimney sweep companies, and so let's get right into it. By the way, we do have our sponsors, Bare Hands Pro and SnapLock, both of them contribute to helping out our industry, and I appreciate both of those companies. And so let's talk about fear, chimney sweep fear in particular, and maybe any kind of fear that you might have if you own a business. So the one thing I want to congratulate everybody already, if you're listening to this, 98% of you have conquered the fear of going into business for yourself. That's awesome. You have taken the leap forward to owning your own destiny, your own fate. And right now you should give yourself a hand. You did it. More than likely, you've been doing it for years. If not, you just started. Well, congratulations. Welcome to entrepreneurship. Some of you are managers and haven't taken that step into that, but you have. You are your own little entrepreneur in your company, and I would expect nothing less of what I'm going to say for the rest of this day or anything I said in any podcast to not include you into this conversation. You have taken the steps of elevating yourself into someone's company to take on the role of leadership, and I commend you too. So there's nothing here different, because leadership is going to come down to really conquering your fears and helping other people conquer their fears. So let's discuss what fear actually is. And I'm going to Google what the actual word is here. I didn't have this ready. So let's just take a look at what the dictionary says. An unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain, or is a threat. Let's talk about that in business. Most of the time, this is so true. Most of the time, your fear ends up, when you go to conquer it in business, it ends up being nothing like the monster you thought it was. Nothing. Not even close, bud. And so one of the things that's equal to your fear and going to conquer it is resistance. Fear is equal to the value. So think about that. The more fearful you are to do it, the more value, once you conquer it, you'll probably get out of it. It's not always true, but let's face it. If you're struggling to do something and it's been on your mind for a day, a month, years to do it, well, more than likely, it'll elevate your game once you've conquered that fear. For some reason, you have not gone to do it because it was scary. Scary things also stop your growth. They stop you from scaling. They stop you from being a better person. Scary things need to be conquered. And so it never turns out to be as big as you thought it was. And so kind of give you a little, for me, so we do Thermocrete. Y'all know that. Most of you do. We don't do the metal linings, and we don't do heat shield. But we never did the metal linings. Why? Because I had a fear. I didn't know really the process of putting in a metal liner, and not so much the fact of slamming a liner down a flue. That part was easy. It was the termination at the smoke shelf that and this is going to sound dumb for you who've been doing it for years, for 24 years, never looked into it. So that is part of the fear too. I didn't do my due diligence really to conquer a fear of something so like elementary in our own industry that I didn't do our master service didn't do his first steel lining until a month and a half ago. True story. Or it was before I went in the hospital, whatever. So within 2 or 3 months ago, we did our first. And how dumb the thought of me thinking how to terminate it. And when I saw that it was just hardware cloth, some type of mesh circling the thing, and then you float it up there into the smoke chamber, I'm like, I told my wife, and we literally cried laughing. Like, how much money have we passed on flues that we just said we can't fix that? Thermocrete won't fix that. Or even before we relined, why we didn't do relinings. All the money we passed up from one dumb fear that I didn't do my research and due diligence that was so easy to do. And so as I progressed into the business in the last few years, I saw other people doing it. And I think I just saw a picture of it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That's all you do. So anyway, a lot of times fear, so kind of getting at fear, it never ends up being what you thought it would be. So, I mean, this Athenian general, Pericles, he was leading an army leading them into a battle. You know, they were marching on there, and an eclipse happened. And so, back in the Roman days, or whatever, whenever this occurred, thousands of years ago, they didn't know what an eclipse was. They had no idea. But when an eclipse happened, they thought it was evil or something. The gods were going to come down. Something was going to happen. Well, Pericles then takes a cloak, his robe, or whatever the hell he was wearing, and he goes and he goes to one of his commanders and he says, "Okay, everybody, watch this." And so we're fear of how it just got dark, and it was a daytime eclipse. It just got dark. So he goes over to one of his commanders. He takes his cloak off. He throws it over his head. He says, "Are you scared right now?" He goes, "No." He goes, "All that is darkness. Are you scared of the dark under my cloak?" And he said, "No." So that is all this is. We can move forward now. It is just darkness. And of course, with an eclipse, as you know, it doesn't last very long, and it just keeps going through, and the light comes out again, and nothing obviously happens from the gods. So I mean, that's exactly what's happened to me in the past. I'll get fearful of something that I don't know about it enough. And I create this story in my head that it's going to be so hard to accomplish this, whatever fear it is, that I just make excuses. I put it to the back burner. I never would do it. And I got many other fears that I would have on little things like that over the years I've conquered and done. But when it comes to you, what are you in fear of right now? Are you in fear of saying something to your employees that might upset them, that they might quit? Are you in fear um, of rejection from somebody? Are you fearful to do a bid to the full extent of what that bid really should be? Like from an inspection. I know a lot of you people sweeps out there have an inspection form, but you don't inspect it completely to give it the estimate, or you don't give the estimate. You might inspect it properly, but you don't give the estimate to the full potential that estimate should be. Let's face it, the chimney is what it does. It's going to tell its own story, right? If the chimney needs a $15,000 something, you gotta give it a $15,000 something on the bid. I mean, I coach enough people to know, and my own self in the past, a lot of people are fearful to give an estimate. And let's just say you as the owner, you're not fearful to give that bid, but your employees are, because they're looking into the pockets of the homeowner for whatever reason the homeowner looks like and is like, well, they don't have the money. Well, it's not your job to predict if the client has the money. It's your job to inspect the chimney and give it the proper inspection. It's kind of the same thing with a plumber or an AC people. If they come out, a plumber, for example, if there's a clogged pipe or a root, the pipe going out to the street or something under the foundation, hey, too bad. It's going to be 10, 15 grand to rip up your floor and change the piping out or whatever. That's the job. That's what it's going to take to fix it. And I think a lot of people are fearful to train that in to their employees as well. It's not your job to look into the pockets. It's your job to give the facts as the facts stand. And with that said, you've got to teach the people that, you know, you can't be fearful of worrying about, you know, an eclipse just happened. The fear is you're going to give the estimate as is. So, you know, we've done I think 2 or 3 relinings to bring it back to my fear is now completely gone. Here I am talking on a podcast within the same quarter of it, that it's no big deal for us, and a lot of other things. So here's something else I saw this week on the chimney groups. I saw in one of the groups this guy standing on a chimney, and I saw 67 comments of everybody ridiculing this guy and doing this, and everything. And the guy wasn't fearful to stand up on the deal. But here's the thing that I didn't see. I didn't see anybody reach out and really help this guy. I saw some guys say get certified and do this, and I don't know if I reached out to the guy and asked him, hey man, I'm sorry you took such a beating on the post, and so if there's anything I can do, I could help you. And so, you know, um, a lot of people are 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 fearful of taking the next step in business because of whatever. Now, this dude wasn't fearful of posting, him standing on a chimney with no gear on, no helmet, and stating it out there. But, you know, he might be fearful next to put out another post after, the shellacking he took. But hopefully he learned from it. Hopefully he takes the whatever he did on that post, what everybody said, because nobody was wrong. Some people are just kind of assholes about the way they're going about it. But when it comes to fear, a lot of people are fearful to take the next step because it's going to cost them too much. Well, my question is how much is it costing you not taking that next step? Buying, getting heat shield, getting Thermocrete, going to outside mount caps, learning how to do masonry more. What's it costing you not to do it? I mean, it's a great movie, and it's the one that they're going to get kill Bin Laden. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's when they're talking about going after. The CIA is talking to the president's advisors, and then one advisor he's saying we may or may not go, and and it's pretty much telling them no, and then they're walking outside of the meeting, and the two heads, the CIA head and the head guy of the presidential advisor, stop and have a private conversation. And the CIA guy goes to the presidential advisor, what does it cost you to not go after him? What is the worldly cost of not doing that? That is something really thinking, and he walks away from it. Of course, the guy stops him and says, if we did do something, and they go on to kill Bin Laden, yeehaw, America. And so, but that is in your own business, what are you fearful right now of? That is in the back of your mind. Right now, think of the value of you conquering that fear. What would that do to you and your business? Now let's talk about this personally. What does this do personally for you? If you have your own fears, you see people that are scared to go skydiving, they go skydiving. What does that really conquer? Well, they skydive, big deal. But let's just, let's say a lot of people have the story how they're fearful to ask a woman out, and then when they finally do, they end up marrying them. You hear that story all the time. There's a consequence to that, doing that fear. They end up getting a wife out of it, have a great life, or whatever life they made of it. But my point is, they're fearful and they did something about it. What can you do, that could literally help you grow as a person? What's going to help you be a better leader? What's going to help you be a better husband? What fear? I mean, and think about this. I look back at my personal life, and what fears have I had personally? I'm not talking business. Personally, a fear that I may have had, that whatever. And I'll tell you, when it comes to my personal fears, I don't really have any to share with you. But we every fear I've ever had, I've pretty much gone up and smacked it in the face and conquered it, or at least got through it. Some fears, come at you, whether you like it or not, and some you get to put on the back burner until someday you finally go and do it. Well, I'll give you one. This is stupid, but I mean, kind of another. It's not really so much of a fear. It was one of those. I didn't know how to do it, so I purposely went and spent a shit ton of money doing it for years. Everyone knows I'm a hunter. Been hunting for years, but I've been hunting since I was 12. For, well, let's see, I'm 49 years old, and 3 years ago at 46, I finally learned how to clean and process into hamburgers, sausages, beef jerky, how to clean any animal and process it myself. I would spend about $1,000 a year not doing it. And the fear I always had was that I'd mess it. I mean, there was fear there, not like in the deathly type of fear, but I thought it was going to be too hard to do it. It's just something I can't learn to do. I don't know why, but it just looks too involved for me to ever try. Well, one day, I decided, when I was at Cabela's, or yeah, I was at Cabela's, I was passing the processing, the grinder and the stuffer, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna buy this and I'm gonna try it myself and see how to watch a couple YouTube videos, and sure enough, I now have saved $1,000 a year because I spent $500 on a grinder, and all the little stuff for that. I mean, kind of a dumb scenario there, but I got through it. I did it, saved me money, and now I enjoy doing it. I actually enjoy that thing that I put off my whole life because I feared it was going to be too entailed for me to do. So, one thing I can help you or help anybody, even myself, with is I read this review, and it was a buddy of mine did this review on $1 million habits. So I'm kind of going to go through this a little bit with you and kind of give you what the 27 powerful habits to become can help you do it. So just kind of going through this, it was done by Daniel Branch, organized by Jeff Rogers, and I'm going to present it to you. So, forming habits. How do you form a habit? In order to successfully form new habits, we must look at our own existing ones. To change, we must become aware of ourselves and our tendencies. There is no other way to nip negativity in the bud. So, first thing you do is you pay attention to your behavior. Notice what you're doing. Notice what you do without thinking. Once you become aware of these things, you can address them. I can't tell you how many times in my life I would react before thinking about what I did. So I pay attention to that now, and I'll get to later in this. It talks a little bit more about this, but it's something that I'm aware of that I do. Consider the consequences and the rewards of your current choices. When you do things, what is the refraction? Do you get rewarded or scorned? Do you deserve one or the other? If you deserve to be scorned for inappropriate behavior, face those issues first. Okay? Now, we're forming habits here, and we're kind of discussing them. So, when straying away from a bad habit, find a way to reward yourself. This is also known as positive reinforcement. You're more likely to continue doing the right thing if your brain associates that action with rewards. Okay? So, remind yourself of things. If you catch yourself slipping, which I do all the time, take notice. If you forgot your reasoning for something, remind yourself. Remember that habits take a while to become second nature. And I'm telling you, I am great at starting stuff. And I used to be horrendous at following up. And let's just face it, in the chimney business, we need to be reminded at this point in time, everything we've worked on in our business right now, we're putting into major usage at this time of year. But all the little things, are we still doing them? Are we actually doing leadership, or are we just operating our business? Are you still having your meetings, or are you operating your business? You need to still have your meetings. You need to still be doing everything that you should be doing to grow your business, even in the busy time. Okay, improving your mentality. We all struggle. Life gets hard. We have things that we don't want to do. It takes time and effort to become successful at these things. You're capable of anything you set out to do if you have the right mentality. Mentality and personality are often connected and have great power over your actions. Okay? So let's talk about it. Be kind to your mind. Treat yourself with love and respect. Discipline is more important, but self-love and appreciation will benefit you even more. Don't forget to encourage and be kind to yourself. When you have no one else, you have yourself. This slide is one of my favorite slides. Let me tell you why. I used to be the king of telling people something bad about me to make them feel better, and I was a total jerk to myself. I would do this all the time. I would literally make a joke about myself. It's kind of like, the class clown or the fat kid, which I was both growing up at times. And you would self-deprecate yourself, and it's like, why did I do that? I know why I did it. I wanted attention. But it's like, as I grow up, I find myself even nowadays, maybe, and not so much now anymore, but you might go to put someone down to feel better. You might put an employee down when your real goal is to lift them up. You're trying to come hard at them, but the same aspect, sometimes maybe being hard is not so good. But then you're talking about yourself, what do you do to yourself? Do you beat yourself up? And that's just it. I mean, it's more important to love yourself and have your respect, because at the end of the day, you'll treat everybody else the same way. Collect your thoughts. This is a big one for me. Don't get too caught up in the hustle and bustle of the world around you. Pay attention to what you're thinking about. Direct focus appropriately. Let me read that again. Direct your focus appropriately. Take time to meditate or whatever you do to get clarity. So this is a big thing. A lot of people that squirrel. So a lot of things, let's bring it back to fear. You have a fear. You're supposed to conquer that fear. What do? You squirrel. You don't direct your focus appropriately. Collect your thoughts. You give up and you move on, and you put it in that bag of fear, and you only conquer that fear later when you need to. So let's talk about it a little bit more. Direct that focus and head on appropriately. If you take time to think more about it, then do that. If you need help doing it, figure it out. Get help. But collect your thoughts. Don't be afraid to forgive. This is a big one for me in my past. It takes more energy and time to harbor resentment than it does to forgive. Do yourself a favor and let go of whatever is preventing you from forgiving someone or a situation. A weight will be lifted off your shoulders and new opportunities will arise. So I've told this story before, but I'll kind of briefly tell it again. So I have people that I've trained that went and start their own business. And one of the first ones that ever did it to me, after about 3 years of a hiatus, after he started his own business, we started to talk. And one of our first talks, well, actually it was the first talk we talked, when I called him up and said, hey, we can still be friends and blah, blah, blah. And not that we really are, but if you ever need anything, you can still call me. And so he told me, well, it doesn't matter what he told me at first. So first, let me tell you. So I felt like a weight had been lifted over me, that I had finally forgiven this gentleman, to let him go on and live his own life, And so in his business, I literally for 3 years would spend 15 to 30 minutes, 10 times a day, just thinking about him. And it's like, as soon as I gave him, I never really thought about him again. It was gone. Now, one of the things that I told in my story, which is so true, he ended up telling me that every time he went around a corner that 3 years, he thought I would be sitting there with a shotgun, which, hey, maybe that was a little solace in my forgiveness, but it was funny, to know that he had thought that way. But then again, that kind of goes to, what he had done and maybe the way he did it. He should have thought himself of how he should do stuff, which is coming up on a slide pretty soon. Okay, moving on. Be thankful. When you can appreciate what you have and what you've accomplished, your emotional well being flourishes. Along with being bettering yourself, let me read that again. Along with bettering yourself, learning to be grateful can improve your relationship skills. The more gratitude you feel, the more generous you're capable of being. Think about that when you think about being thankful to your employees, you know, I mean, to your wife, to your spouse. The more thankful you are and gratitude given, how much generosity will be given back to you. It's so true. It's like when I started coaching, you know, I knew I wanted to help people, and it was installed in me that if you don't help them, that you got to charge to pay all the time, which I don't charge all the time, but I have found out that if you don't charge, they don't do the work, they don't show up, and all that kind of stuff. So, I do still charge, and I haven't raised my rates for the reason I don't want to raise them. But I started to learn to be thankful of all my good clients that are showing up, doing the work. And at some point in time, we just talk at times. There's not work being done, but we'll find out that there's more work being done when I'm thankful for them, and I tell them that, and we talk about things, and then they come back with thankful to me, and we start with this list, like 10, 15 minutes of how thankful, and then we start rehashing of what we've done. And that thankfulness brought us to somewhere new, which is this has happened to me many times coaching, where they'll tell me thank you, and then I'll say thank you back. We'll talk a little bit, and boom, it ends up being one of the best sessions of growth that we've done when we didn't have a topic, or we skipped the topic we were going to do because we talked about whatever came to mind. And so anyway, be thankful in your life and business, and then be resilient. Don't get stuck in the past. Believe in yourself and follow yourself to adapt to change. Set purposeful goals when you feel stuck. I should set goals anyway, but let's just talk about, uh, being stuck in the past. That kind of comes to the point of when we talked about fear. I was stuck in not deer processing. I was stuck in not doing metal liners. I was so stuck in my past fears that I didn't believe in myself to adapt to change. And so far, let's talk about the two things we talked about. So right now, I've gone, 3 or 4 years of process, I think 2 or 3 years of processing myself. That saved me $2,000 or $3,000. Relining's already made me, which I would have passed on the job, probably $10,000 to $15,000 already. So there's a consequence to being resilient and conquering my fears. So don't be stuck in the past. It's okay to be curious. Curiosity isn't harmful as long as the old saying goes. Curiosity killed the cat. I'm assuming to talk about. The more you seek to know, the more likely you are to get over pre-existing fears. What I say. Learn new things. Ask questions about things you'd like to learn about or change about yourself. Try new things every day if possible. When you really look at being curious, it is really a great way to look at just stepping out of yourself and go, how do you do that? How would I do that if I were to do that? What would it look like if I said this to this person? If you're managing someone that you really didn't think through. And so I actually have two scenarios I'm waiting on this week from clients that they went and had fierce conversations with one person or their entire company. And I'm waiting to see back their fear of how their employees or that one person took the conversation. I know for a fact that nobody quit because they were going to call me if it went bad, and nobody called me. So I'll be finding out, well, actually here just shortly, one of them, the other one I'll find out later in the week. But I can tell you right now, I bet you that fierce conversations all went well. And so their pre-existing fears of what they thought the outcome would be in those conversations, I bet you were more harmful to not having it than by having the conversation. Find the silver lining. Boy, I think that's something that everybody really needs to think about a lot more. Find the silver lining. Darkness is inevitable. Rain clouds can't be avoided. It's all about the good and the bad, no matter how hard it might be. Making this a habit will make the toughest days seem a bit more tolerable. Wow. People that find the silver lining are always those people that you're attracted to, correct? I'm not a silver lining person. I'm not going to lie. I don't find the silver lining, uh, at least in my past, is a little bit more now, but not as much as I used to. I try to give people solutions into where you never have to come into the darkness and deal with the silver lining. But I will tell you, me personally, silver lining is something I'm personally working on in my own self to make sure that I look at most scenarios as it ain't no big deal. Find a silver lining. And I gotta say, I can think of a coaching session just last week I had with a client who actually was talking about the current administration and where things are headed, and was scared about his business. And I said, listen, a silver lining here is simple. Don't look into it. Work today. We made it through COVID, and there's our silver lining. We made it through COVID. What could this administration do to us besides taxing us and doing some other stuff that literally we can't live through? I mean, you've been in business, and I'm talking to anybody in general now. You've generally been in business long enough to run through some of these bad times. The silver lining is at the end of it, what happened to your business? Other than we made it through COVID, you got better. That's my silver lining to any story. Anything that big happens to me and it's bad, I conquer it, and my company comes out way better. I mean, COVID killed my business, as I've talked about before. And in the last 9 months, 9 weeks, from spending all summer and springtime figuring out how to fix it and then implementing the fix, we literally, our silver lining is we had the best record sales last week that we've had ever in October, and possibly ever. So we did $150,000 in sales. Production wise, we're doing like 110 to 120,000 production a week. We've never had that in October. We've done that maybe 5 times in the existence of our business. But we learned how to do it. The silver lining is paying off. So, okay. Avoid dishonesty. Almost a slide I didn't put in here, but let me tell you why I put it in here. Because lying doesn't help anyone. Don't hide what you're feeling or thinking from people. Own up to your actions. If you really want to instill change within yourself, honesty is essential. Don't forget about the well-deserved respect that tends to come along with telling the truth. I find most people are honest people. And here's why I put it in here. Sometimes when you have a hard-faced situation in front of you, you may not lie, but you may stretch the truth. You may do something to make your company look better. I have found in my company, truthfully, face it head on, own up to what you did wrong, and fix it. Don't white lie stuff, because when you do white lie, it just compounds. And maybe you get through it because you thought, you did. But quite frankly, if you own right up to it and go right to it, you're going to find that habit of owning up to it is generally better than trying to squeak by something with a white lie to make it seem better for you. Because quite frankly, at the end of it, if you come through the fear and tell the truth right through the whole thing, you're going to feel better about yourself and your company when you get through it. So spirituality is inspiring. Each person here is different and is allowed to believe in whatever they want. Just remember to stay in touch with your spirit. Feel the energies around you, absorb the positivity, and the inspiration that you have around you. It's good to invest. You should always invest in yourself financially and in yourself. It might seem cliche, but it's true. Investing in yourself would include proper sleep schedule, good health, mental exercises, and more. Don't be afraid to get advice from an expert on how to invest your money properly as well. So that's my little presentation that I want to kind of go through on this. And so let me give you my takeaways. So this was from me when I did this. My takeaways were, from when trying to form a new habit, keep reminding yourself into a routine. Okay. Another takeaway is, be kind to myself. No more negativity about myself to make light of situations. Collect your thoughts before acting. Pause before action. Be resilient and don't get stuck in the past. And like I said, find a silver lining, because it's made my business grow from the hard lessons. And so, guys, I hope that you can find a little bit on how to change a little bit from my presentation. I hope you can look at your fears, find a fear, and conquer it here real soon. But that's my time today. And again, thank you to my sponsors, Bare Hands Pro and SnapLock. Have a great day.